Over the past 5 months, since I started my PIIverse YouTube channel, I've shared with you every aspect of my passive income investing journey. But now, it's time for us to hear from you, your stories. It's time for my viewers to tell your passive income investing journey. So let's get started. Hello there, my name's Perry, and welcome again to the PIIverse. So this is going to be actually an interesting one because I'm turning the tables on you. So you have again, I started my journey on YouTube as a YouTube channel influencer, quote unquote, back in July 16th of this year. So in those 5 months, I've released over 50 something videos. I have told my story, my history, my strategy, my portfolio, my holdings. I've helped you and talked to you about answers to some of the concerns people have on passive income investing and on covered call ETFs. So you and my channel is growing. Like I'm still awestruck that I currently have now, after only 5 months, 10,000 subscribers. It just blows my mind. And I'm so humbled that so many of you find this channel interesting. But it's really time, it's Christmas, it's the holiday season coming. So I'm going to turn this basically the tables around on you. We're going to have a passive income investing roundtable. And the purpose of this is for me to introduce myself again. I'm going to be the first one in video and audio format to tell you my story if I were to actually write this out as a comment. But then what I'm going to be doing is asking every one of you, my viewers, my channel subscribers, to please come out of the woodworks, come out of the shadows, and tell us your story. That's going to be very interesting. And the reason it's interesting is because, honestly, it's one thing when a viewer is watching this, has never done passive income investing, has never done DIY investing at all. They've never invested or they've never done a trade in their life. They've always gone to the banks and had them do their stuff. And they're now just starting that scary world of income investing and trading and investing for themselves and making their own decisions. So to hear all the stories from experienced, and again, I'm going to say experienced with double quotes around it, experienced influencers, finfluencers from YouTube, telling them our story on how we've done this and we've made millions and all this kind of stuff, and we understand exactly how we're doing our trades and stuff like that, and we show you all our successes. But honestly, I can tell you right now, as if I were a viewer myself, no story would resonate more with me if I'm starting this journey, than to hear the stories from those that actually have started following this passive income investing journey, had some stumbles, had some challenges, but what inspired them? How did they get into it? Why did they decide that this passive income investing strategy or phenom that's basically been hitting the markets for the past several years has inspired them enough that they decided, I'm walking away from the banks and I'm going to do this myself. I mean, if I were that person, 3 years ago when I started and I was hearing stories, not from the people like the influencers of their times, obviously the GOAT Adriano, but several others that were, touting passive income investing, I would have been more inspired hearing those that have started following the journey and started the journey, reading their stories and say, wow, that's just like me. I'm in that boat. Like, oh, I can see that. Hey, if that person can do it, I can do it. Or yeah, I can see the challenges he has, because it has a much more resonance of reality when you hear it from the viewers that are watching this channel. Because honestly, I'm nothing special. I'm, if I'm going to embed a disclaimer, I'm not a tax expert, financial expert. I'm not certified in any way. So everything I've been telling you is from a non-experienced person that started this journey themselves only 3 years ago, and has just, put my nose to the grindstone. I really love the, investing, and it basically is a personal passion of mine. And so you're hearing all this information from me, from just my interest in investing. not because I'm an expert. So it's just so you know. But that being said, I know a lot of viewers look at me and say, well, Perry, you're almost like my financial advisor at the bank and stuff like that. And again, humbled and thankful that you actually think that of me. But I want to keep it in perspective of I'm not a trained financial expert. But that being said, I really think for the value of every viewer of my channel that's watching this video and all my other videos, this is going to be the video where people can actually read the stories from people like you. Fellow passive income investors like me and you and everyone else that's out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first quickly tell you my story. If I were to write a comment in this thread right here in this video, which I'm going to be asking you to do, I'm going to tell you sort of my storyline and my history and stuff like that. And then what I'm going to be doing is a call to action with you to do the same thing. Take some time and really help the community out by telling us your story. All right, so let's get started. Quickly, just for me, again, I say I'm not an expert. I'm going to tell you, if for anyone that thinks that I've been doing this for 20 years and I must have had some financial background, I have no formal financial background. I had an entire career that was in the IT community. Any investment or finance knowledge that I have, I've gained from Google and YouTube and just reading the articles in the newspapers and stuff like that. I really love finance and I do love investing. So I've always had that interest. But I'll tell you, as much interest as I had, until 3 years ago, I did not do any DIY investing, except for when I was a teenager and I played around with penny stocks. So that doesn't count. So my entire adult life, I have literally gone to my big banks, and basically, did my career, generated income, and handed down, $1,000 a month or $500 or whatever I did on a monthly basis to contribute to my RRSPs. My company pension plan was doing its own thing, so it was building its own thing. But basically, when it came to investing, I basically went to my bank. I said, "Here's another $500. Put it into my mutual fund. And I know that I'd say 90% of you are likely saying the same thing. That's what I did. That's what you are doing, because I was like, I'd say 80-90% of the community. That was my life. Slowly saving up, trying to pay down my mortgage and get it down so I can actually add more to my balanced portfolio that was generating that whopping 4 to 7% average annual ROI, hoping that maybe I can save enough. I didn't even know how much enough was until about, so I should say I'm 62. I retired at age 60 in late 2023. And in all my years in the 50s, I was like, I don't even know how much I need to retire. So I actually started doing active work and saying, how much do I need? Okay, we need maybe about $5,000 a month to just live comfortably, and start saying, do I have enough retirement investments and RRSPs and TFSAs to do that? My financial planner from the bank helped us say, here's what we can do to make you get to age 90 with the balanced portfolio you have. Okay, but I wasn't happy. I sort of said to myself, I don't want to hope that my portfolio is large enough that it gets melted down over the next 20, 30 years to a point that I can actually, survive my retirement. I wanted to flourish in my retirement. And for some reason, I had a feeling that the best way to do it is to not have a portfolio that was growth based, of which when you retire, that growth stops and you now start eroding it. My belief was that I needed a portfolio that generated income. And again, I'm going to say right now, until February of 2023, I did not even know what a covered call ETF was. So just telling you, it's only 2025. It's been only under 3 years since I even knew what a covered call ETF was. Before February of 2023, I just tried to go into doing a little bit of dabbling of DIY, and that means do it yourself, DIY investing. Even though all my portfolio was still in RRSPs and stuff, I decided that, okay, I'm just going to open up an account, a trading account. Maybe I'll just invest in dividend stocks. I look for all the biggies. Now in Canada, that's the typical Suncors, Enbridges. And I tried to say, maybe I could just have enough in them that they'll generate dividends that I could live off dividends. And I tell you, those 2 or 3 months prior to February, I was like, this isn't working out. I didn't have a strategy. I was all over the place. Yeah, I generated some dividends, but they weren't great. And then Suncor's stock would drop $10, and it's like, man, this is not working. This is just not working. And then what happened? Epiphany happened. And I've told this story in other videos, but for those viewers that don't know my story, again, what I'd be writing here is I saw my first Hamilton Investments commercial on Business News Network, where they were advertising their new HMAX Covered Call ETF, generating 13% yield. And I'm going, 13% yield? Wow. I mean, at the end of I was hoping to get 6 or 7. How are they doing this with 13% yield on this Covered Call ETF? And that is how my journey started. I'd say late January, early February, I learned about HMAX from Hamilton. I started going, okay, if this is true, let me dig into it. I called actually the office. I had a half-hour interview with them. I did a lot of YouTube videos that I learned what is a covered call ETF. And then, of course, when you do YouTubing, you then learn about this thing called passive income investing. I'm sure sometime around there, names like Adriano started popping up in videos, but others as well. It was a blur then. But at the end of the day, my focus journey was, what are these covered call ETFs? Are they really true? Of course, I heard all the risks about erosion and NAV erosion and return on investment, and they're just returning it all to you. But I didn't take those scary tactics to heart. I basically, okay, important things to know. Are they true? That's why I called people like Hamilton Investments and actually sat down and you explained to me why there's no return on investment, and what is rock and what is, erosion and all the kind of things. So I learned on my own, and I realized that these things are the real deal. And so from basically February, March of 2023, I started the journey of my passive income investing when I said, let me start by moving my TFSAs over. I had 6 accounts. I had an RRSPs, I had a Lira, I had my wife's RRSP. I had lots of accounts, but I decided I was going to use my TFSAs. I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Let me try getting them over. I learned more that Hamilton had other ETFs like HDIV and HYLD. I actually invested in them. Then I learned that Harvest had some as well. So more I learned, I started investing in some of those. I started broadening and building up a portfolio and some form of an early version of a strategy. No strategy yet. Went through all of the summer. I really started convinced. I started seeing real results. I started seeing real consistent income coming. I said, okay, it's time. I'm going to move my RSPs over. So in the summer, I moved my RSPs over. And then the big thing happened is I retired that same year in October 1st. I had to make a decision with my pension. So when everyone looks at my size of my portfolio being like 1.567 million, you got to remember, that's not because I'm rich. It's because I put a lot of money into my RSPs over my entire career, and then I cashed out and commuted my pension. If anyone, and I didn't have that many years, if you had like 20, 30 years in a pension and you decide to commute it, that's a lot of money. It could be, between $500,000 and $800,000. So the fact I didn't get, now mine wasn't that much. Mine was around 400,000. But when you add that all together, my portfolio became that large because of my pensions and my RRSPs. I was so convinced in October, November about the passive income investing strategy that I put my money where my mouth was. I decided that I was going to actually commute my pension. It was an easy decision for me, so don't say because Perry commuted it, I should commute it. Everyone should do their own thinking on this, so do not take anything I say as financial advice. You need to do your own thing. With me, the decision was easy because my pension was not a great pension. My company had a pretty lame pension. It had no bridging. It had no indexing. So, and basically the typical pension that if I die, my wife only gets half of it. If my wife passes away, then my kids get none of it. So there was a lot of reasons like, why am I doing all of these limitations if I can basically then turn around and put it into covered call ETFs where I can get at minimum 10 to 20%. Now, this is before I even learned about the ultra yielders, which showed up later on. Okay, so I did that. By November of 2023, I went from I didn't know what a covered call ETF was in February to literally all my investments, all my portfolio, all my accounts were transferred over into my new passive income investing portfolio, my PIIverse portfolio. So what you see when you see me talking all the time about my journey and my portfolio, it's from that history. In that 1 year in 2023, I moved from being subservient to the banks and getting these lame, sorry, I almost said a bad word, these lame returns. And I moved over to getting the kind of returns I've had. I can turn around and tell you right now, it's been 2 full years. So I'd say November 2023 is when my PIIverse passive income portfolio was mature. It was at a point where it was no longer being constructed. I also built a strategy around it at that time because I was taking a risk of actually commuting my pension. I made a commitment between me and my wife that I would make this strategy as rock solid as possible because I'm working with our future 30 years of retirement. So this is where I built a strategy on heavy diversification, reinvestment to deal with with inflation and make sure I have that, making sure that I have enough of my base ETFs investments that will cover my monthly expenses, and then go into what now I'm going to refer to as my yielders and my juicers. So I've really built and I've evolved over the last 2 years a stronger and stronger portfolio strategy, the ones that I'm sharing with you over the past 5 months. So you're basically getting the benefits of 2-3 years of portfolio strategy development, enhancement, refinement, and then explaining it to you. So that is my journey. How has it helped me? It's been a game changer. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm speaking just as a guy that 3 years ago did not even know what a covered call was. My retirement before I learned about passive income investing was that I was going to be lucky if my investments during retirement would have generated $5,000, maybe $6,000 a month. My pension, because I would not have commuted my pension because I would have had nothing to commute to. So I would never have taken that chance. I would have made maybe $2,000 a month from my pension, which unfortunately, because it's not indexed, it would have been the same $2,000 a month for 30 years. So slowly but surely, thanks to inflation, my $2,000 a month until I turned 80 and 90 would have dwindled away to effectively about $500 a month. My retirement, my RSP investments and stuff, they would have been continually melted down from all the calculations I made. It would have survived. I could not have done major things in my retirement, like 2 or 3 trips around the world or doing a major kitchen renovation. Those would have been off the table if prior to me learning about passive income investing. So what has changed since then? Everything. I don't worry about $5,000 a month. I've now upped my monthly budget to say I can, easily generate $10,000 a month. I don't need $10,000 a month, but that's what I generally actually withdraw from my portfolio every month. And whatever I do, I can now do things like in 2024, we did a huge $80,000 kitchen renovation, something I would have never been able to do with my old retirement strategy. I bought a hot tub for myself, something I would have likely not done as a retiree prior to passive income investing. I've basically got 2 kids and they're adult kids, but I've now started seeding their TFSAs so that they now have this, what I call FIRE-based TFSA passive income investing strategy. So now that my money that it's excess can now start feeding their portfolios, so that now today, this year on, they are actually getting monthly checks from their TFSAs, and I can now contribute to that. Something I would not have been able to do if I followed the old strategy and said, no, it's too scary, I'm not touching this thing called covered call ETFs. All of that has come because of the passive income strategy. I would never look back. If I looked back and say, why did I do it? There's no way. I just now look at it as like it's the best decision I ever made, and the timing worked out really good. The only thing that would have been scary for me was that I only had 8 to 10 months to make these decisions. I went from I didn't know what a covered call ETF was to deciding to actually cash out my pension in 8 months. It would have been nice if I learned about passive income investing and covered call ETFs about a year earlier. I would have had a lot more confidence. I would have not even thought twice about commuting my pension. Matter of fact, I likely would have retired a year earlier if I would have learned about passive income investing a year earlier. Now, that being said, look at it. Basically, the explosion of passive income investing and covered call ETFs didn't even really happen till about 2022. It was starting to emerge in 20 and 2021, but it really caught fire in 22, 23. So honestly, I understand why I wouldn't have started earlier. It was just evolving and emerging. So the timing was just perfect for my retirement. So that's what it is. Those are my lessons learned. And I'm going to say one more thing about me in 2026. For those of you who've watched my portfolio and seen that I'm actually on a more aggressive side with a 37 to 40% yield, I would call myself an income growth portfolio investor, meaning I do take some juicers and some of my yielders in there, but I think over now that I've reached a sort of pinnacle of how much income I can generate on a monthly basis, which again, remember my strategy is at minimum 3 times monthly expenses. Well, if I consider 10 to be my expenses, 30,000 would be a minimum. I'm over 40. So I can now actually, and I think what I'm going to be starting to do in 2026 is I'm going to be starting to actually look at consolidating a little bit more, removing potentially some of the weaker juicers. I already did that this week when you saw my announcement that I've now closed Coney. I think it wouldn't be shocking if I decide to close down Alti. I'll be looking for those weak juicers that basically are showing signs of decay and stuff, and say, you know what, it's not worth my risk to hold on to them. I have the wherewithal to go into a more conservative approach. I'm going to move things that are juicers more towards income yielders, or what I call the core yielders, and maybe even further augment my core base and start. So you're going to see my income actually potentially in 2026 lower a little bit, because I'll be taking some of those juicers off the table and moving to a more stable income yielder or a core base. So that's my future. All right. So I've talked enough. I'm very good at talking. You guys know I am. So now the table is going to turn and I'm going to be asking you. So I want you to please take some time. Don't sit in the shadows. I hope to see nice long comments from several of you. And for those that are going to respond to these comments, please be kind, be positive. This is a positive community. Having basically constructive criticism is one thing, but the other thing is basically at the end of the day, the idea is to inspire each other and help each other out with their journey. So for those of you that are brave enough to say, I'm going to take the time, Perry, and help the rest of the community by telling you my story, I know there's some really good stories out there. I've heard a lot of them privately. I've seen a couple on Blossom publicly, actually, and I know those kind of examples. So here's what I want from you. When you write the comments, I'm going to give you ideas of what you can write in, put into your comments. You don't have to do them all. If you don't want to tell me your portfolio size or tell us what your portfolio size, you can even maybe make a general saying it's over $1 million, or it's only about 1 to 300,000, or it's big or small. You decide. If it's whatever you feel comfortable sharing. Tell us how you got started. Tell us when you got started. Give us your history of your situation. Where were you when before you decided taking on this journey? What inspired you to learn and begin the passive income journey? Are you new to DIY investing, or have you been doing DIY investing, but you've been in the growth portfolios and you've been a growth investor, and you're now, because of lifestyle changes, maybe you're planning on retiring soon, or maybe you're in the 30s and you've made a conscious decision that I want to retire by age 40 and I want to be a fire investor, and growth is good for now, but I need constant income. So tell us all, what's inspiring you to move over to income investing? And are you an experienced income investor, or are you brand new? You didn't even know how to open up a trading account until when you started this year. So please tell us that. Tell us how has it gone so far? What are your challenges? What are some of the mistakes? Because what's as important as successes is to hear your mistakes. What did you do wrong that, you know what, if I could turn the clock back, I really wish I wouldn't have done this. I wish I would have diversified more. I wish I would have stayed out of the juicers. Tell us what it is that was mistakes that you made that you can now correct. But of course, tell us your successes and your milestones and your rewards. And what, who or what was some of your most valuable resources on your journey? Like, yeah, I mean, humbled. Thank you if you say it's me, but I know there are other very good influencers out there like Paul and Adriano and income investing. There's a whole bunch of the influencers in the YouTube channel. There's the Blossom community. I tell you right now, the Blossom community was literally invaluable to me. So if you are one of the Blossom investors, I'm sure you might say Blossom was a huge influencer for me in helping me understand how to go forward. And then tell me and tell us all, how has it changed your life? Like, what was your life before, and how is passive income investing already changing your life? Good or bad? Maybe it's bad too. Maybe you made some bad mistakes or really bad. But anyways, tell us how it's changed your life. And then finally, it would be really great to hear from you. What's your plans for 2026? What do you think you're going to be doing? All right. So again, I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. Your stories will do more to influence and inspire fellow YouTube viewers of my channel and passive income investors than even my story, because yours are going to be like, he's got nothing to gain. He's not an influencer, or she's not an influencer. She's just telling her story. And wow, that story is just like mine. I love hearing it. Pardon me. I love hearing about it. So again, I look forward to your stories, and we'll see where it goes from here. By the way, I've lost my little, here is my mousey. So anyways, I look forward to your stories, and let's get started on this storytelling of this Roundtable Passive Income Investing Roundtable. We'll talk to you soon, and let's hear your stories.